Let's talk about test automation estimation part. Right? So, at any point in your career or in your project task, you will come across this. Okay, your leader or manager or your organization will ask you, okay, if there are these many test cases, right, how much time it will take for the automation. So automation is like very what do you say? It's a very wide term, right? It's you we cannot say okay we will complete automation in 2 months, 3 months, right? First we have to understand like what we want to automate, right? What we want to automate, how is your application. There are a lot of factors which you should gather these data for, right? So when we say test automation estimation, it will be based on the data. It will be based on the data you have, right? It's not, I'm not talking about test data. I'm talking about the facts. I am talking about different, parameters which will set your test automation estimation part. And there will be a logical reason behind the number of test cases you want to automate, right? How you want to do it, what will be the priority. There are a lot of things. Then, as of now, we don't have any standard tool to say, see, if there are 100 test cases, it will take 2 months, 4 months, or there is no tool which will say, put these things in your Excel sheet and automatically it will generate the number of days or number of hours, man hours required for the automation. It is purely based on your experience and your knowledge about how much time it takes. And second thing is, a single person should not take the decision. It should not be like one day a test lead will come or the test manager will come and they will say that we have 100 test cases for the automation and let's complete in 1 month or or number of hours. It's not like that. It should be a team decision. If, and especially when you are working on like agile framework, right? So it should be a team decision about the estimation also. Now let's understand what are the parameters. First thing is what all we want to achieve, what all things, right? Automation means you have to check, are we talking about the UI automation? Do we want to do the API automation, or there are database part also that we want to automate? Maybe accessibility testing, right? There are a lot of things which can be automated. Now we are living, in the in the era where anything can be automated. Right? There may be its own pros and cons, but as of now, you can automate lot of things in the testing. Right? So we have to first capture about what we want to automate. Right? Note down it first. Right? Then what we want to automate. What we want to automate means what part of your application, what part of your application you want to automate. Is it just the features which you want to automate? Okay, so or different things. Maybe the like you want to check end to end or the system integration or just module by module. So you have to note down it. What are the things we want to automate? But after that, obviously, you will come to a point where you will say, okay, we have all the test cases written as the regression test cases and we want to automate. Most of the times it's like this only, right? We have some number of test cases ready, and I'm talking about we should have this count all manual test cases, right? So manual test cases, once you have the count, right? Don't be in hurry to say, okay, these many test cases are there. We will automate in this much time. The thing is, the team should have a meeting, let's say I'm saying, let's say, brainstorming meeting, right? Where, and it may take time. It may take time, let's say 1 week or two week time to, every day sit for 1 hour, let's say, and check all the test cases which you can automate. So figure out how many test cases you can automate. So I'm writing in the Excel sheet, let's say. Okay. So here I am saying that number of test cases. Okay. You have total number of test cases, and out of which, how many you can automate. How many can be automated. Okay. So we say them automation candidate, right? These test cases generally, like, technically, we are using the term automation candidate in terms of test cases. Okay? So these many test cases you can automate. So for example, you have 120 total number of test cases. How many can be automated? Because there may be some restriction, limitation that you should not automate a particular part. That's fine. Or it's completely not possible to do it because there is some check which you will do it manually and then come back to the browser and then doing something. So you have to understand what all things we can automate, right? Flow wise. So let's say out of 120, I can automate, or the team can automate 100 test cases can be automated. Now again, these numbers will come based on your experience, based on, um, because a person who is newly joined, right? They may have their own experience, what they can automate, what they cannot. But once you are experienced in the test automation, you will say, okay, no, no, this part is also possible, this part is also possible, something like that. So it will be a team decision. Okay, we are now ready for, let's say, 100 test cases can be automated. Okay. So that is, these meetings are very important. It should not be like a single person will take the decision, you will do it. If you are the only test engineer in your team, that's fine. You can take the decision. But if there is a testing team, involve all the manual test engineers, in fact, the business analyst also in the meeting, and then do a brainstorming. Okay, we have these many test cases, and figure out. It won't take much time. How many you can automate. Now the question is, once you figure out the number of test cases you can automate, what to do, how to do the estimation then. The estimation should be done based on a POC, right? The proof of concept. First of all, don't, consider it like, okay, it will happen very easily, or we'll be able to do it, right? Do a small POC, proof of concept, right? So when you're saying, we are ready for the test automation, then do a small POC. Maybe it will take around, let's say, 7 to 10 days. Right? So I am considering that th- it's a it's it's a company who want to automate it, and there are around 120 or more than 120 test cases, right? So for that, if we want to make a sustainable test automation framework, then we have to think about, um, you know, figuring out all these things. So why I'm saying POC? Because you have to find out your test cases. You are saying, theoretically, you are saying that you can automate it, right? You did a brainstorm, okay, 100 test cases we can automate. But when you do real automation, then only you will get a feel that how much time it takes to find the element, how much time it takes to complete a flow, right? There may be different complexities. So do a small POC and take, let's say, around 10 test cases as an example. Let's do the automation for the 10 difficult test cases. Don't do just login related test cases or checking a particular thing in the app, in your application. right? Small thing. Do the complex test automation first. Take it as a POC. So for example, a complete flow where you are checking from the login to coming to a page where you want to validate something related to a transaction, related to the core thing of your application. So for example, if it is a e-commerce application. So what will be the best test case to automate is like finding one product, adding it to the cart, and then purchasing it and completing the flow, something like that. So take around 10 test cases and automate it and note down everything. What are the difficulties you are finding to automate and everything. So once you will do this 10 test cases, you will get a fair idea that when I'm doing the automation for 10 test cases, it's taking me a single person, let's say, is doing it. You have to calculate, you have to make a formula of it, right? So for example, let's say 10 test cases are there and it takes around, let's say, 20 days to automate this 10 test cases, right? It may be less, it may be just 2 days also, right? But I'm taking, a particular case, a simple way of thinking, right? So 10 test cases, let's say we have, and it is taking you 20 days, right? So this is about the test script writing. There are a lot of things to do after this. So for example, let's say this is about, just a minute, let me close the WhatsApp. Okay. So 10 test cases, 20 days, you did. Then based on that, you can say, okay, if I have 100 test cases, right, to automate, it will take me 200 days. Right? So generally, it's not 200 days. It's like 200 days into every day you work, let's say 8 hours. Right? So it's actually 1600 hours. And then maybe you can, if you have what we can say, if you have a team of um, if you have a team of, let's say, four test engineers, right? So it will take 1600 divided by 4 is equals to 400 hours. Okay, so it will take 400 hours. So you have to calculate then, okay, whether these many hours means how many days it will take. These are calculations are correct. Let me check it again. 10 test cases are taking 20 days. That's fine. And then if there are 100 test cases, then it will take, let's say, 200 days into 8 hours every day, 1600 hours. 1600 divided by, let's say, 4 member, so it will be, for per member it will be 400 hours will be allocated. So but basically companies are, organization are interested in knowing how many hours it will take to automate. Now, your question may be, we chose the complex test cases to automate. The other test case may take less number of hours, right? So then you can again you can check it. Okay, so for example, let's say when there are so so let's say 50 complex test cases, 30 is the medium priority and smaller test cases, and 20 test cases are just like cosmetic things to check. Okay, a particular page is opening or not, there are buttons present or not. Based on that also you can decide, okay, this 50 test case will take around 500 hours, but this 30 test cases will just take, let's say, half a day, half day to automate it, right? So maybe you can complete it in 15 days, right? So let me take it as a day wise, 15 days. And these 20 test cases are like in 1 hour you can complete it. So maybe it will take just 4 days, something like that. Then the number of hours and days will be different for the automation. But let's understand one thing. Most of the companies, right, when you are talking about the automation, it's not just about writing the script. It's not just about writing the script. So you have to consider a lot of other things. What are those? Things are related to failure management. Right? So there will be test cases which will fail. So when you are creating the script, it is working fine. But when you run it as a test suite, it is taking time. Right? When there are parallel execution, then some test cases are failing. Right? Then you have to think about how much time you will have related to your uh, test framework management or maintenance, right? This is also important when you are calculating your test automation effort, right? So you have to take some buffer time about your framework maintenance also. So when we say framework maintenance, that it may be related to adding new component to your framework, right? Or maybe related to how you want to write the script, which will plug your test automation framework to your Jira APIs. So there are ways where you can execute your test case in the Selenium, but actually the result will be reflected in Jira or whatever. Let's say you are using TestRail or any other test management tool if you are using, right? So it may be related to, let's say I'm writing reporting thing that you want to set up, right? So there are a lot of things which you should think about when you are giving the estimation. But the basic thing is still same. Basic thing is simple, like how many test cases are there, how much we want to automate it, right? But consider other parameters also related to um, it's not like that once you create the test cases it will always be passed, right? That will be the best case, but the average case is there will be 10 test cases which will fail. Some 10 test cases will fail, right? So you have to again check. The test automation engineer has to check those failed test cases. It's same as development, right? How the development happens. Once the development activity is done for an application, there are defects and developers has to resolve it. In the same way, when you are doing the test automation, there will be chances when the test cases will get failed. So you have to calculate it by failure management part also. So let's consider every time 10 test case will fail. So to resolve it, you have to give a time that, okay, I'm considering that every release, I'm considering that every release there will be a 10 test cases will come up and we will take 2 hours to resolve it. So I'm talking about the continuous um, estimation for your automation project. Automation is not just one time activity. You cannot say that, see, you have 100 test cases, I will automate it and it's done. It's not like that. So when you are estimating it, try to connect with your manager and leaders that what all things we want to include in the estimation. They will say, whatever you want to include, you include it. Maybe they will say like that, but still talk with them. See, I am thinking in this way. I'm thinking in this way because every release we will have, once the automated test cases are ready, then again there will be a failure. So we have to think about keeping the 20 hours in buffer for the failure management, right? There may be cases related to parallel execution where the failure will come. So your framework should be in a way that if it is possible, run it in parallel. If it is not at all possible, we have to run in sequential, then it's fine. This is just a one thought, like you have to think about it. If it is a parallel, yeah, are there any failures? Test framework maintenance related activity should be included on every release. Maybe let's say 10 hours in every release related to uh, are we writing any new, you know, generic functions or utility functions for those things. Then reporting purpose, once your framework is developed, then you should think about these things, whether we can integrate it the Jira APIs, test streams, reporting. So this is separate estimation you should give. It's not related to test script design, right? It's not related to the test script design. So you should give a separate estimation about integrating with Jira, test trail, reporting, or Git or Jenkins, right? So probably it's a one-time activity. I understand that this is, let's say, one-time activity to do this thing, but you can include this on overall estimation. So we'll take around, let's say, 40 hours for um, Jira API integration or test trail integration or Jenkins job creation for smoke testing or regression testing. So around 40 hours it will take. So you have to consider all these points when you are giving an what we say estimation for this. Right? So now we are talking about uh, why we are saying that Jira APIs or test rail or for the reporting purpose is is important or to or good to understand. The thing is, when you are saying you have 100 test cases created, you have automated it, right? You automated it and you are showing the result. That's perfectly fine. But one day, if somebody will ask you that, okay, you automated these test cases, where are those test cases? Where are the test cases which you have automated? So basically, you will say that, okay, I have the test cases written in Jira or whatever tool you are using, right? So test trail you are using. Now, the first question maybe somebody can ask, right? Where are the test cases? Where are the test cases which are automated, right? So you can say, okay, these are the test cases, and we have put the flag in in some field in the Jira that it automated is equals to yes. So that means we can automate those test cases. Right? One way is that. Second thing is sometimes it is required that to create, if you're utilizing the Jira in a very good way or the test trail in a very good way, you can create the release, right? And you can pull out the test cases, pull the test cases which you want to execute for this current release, right? So so there are releases. So let's say there is a January release, and there are 80 test cases which is related to this January release. So you want to show the result of these 80 test cases. How many are, passed or failed? So that's why it is important to integrate your execution with the test management tool. So most of the test management tool has their REST APIs. So the integration will happen like this. Let me note down here. Actually, what should happen is, let's say I'm considering a very simple case. Let's say you have Selenium test cases, right? You are executing it. So this execution will have some kind of listeners, or in whatever way you want to do it, right? So every test case will be, either it will be passed or failed. Based on that, it should change the status in Jira about this test cases, whether it is passed or failed. It can be happened through REST API, Jira, Jira REST APIs. It is available. Go to the Jira website. There is a particular tutorial about it. It's not a big deal, and because there is just a post call. So based on the status of your test case, you will call one. You will do a post call through the code itself. So basically, you have to write a Java code to say that, okay, test case number 126, right? You will pass this. So every test case has a ticket number, right? In Jira or anywhere, everything has a test ID. In any tool you have a test ID. So actually you will be passing, okay, test case number 126, status is equals to fail. something like that. You will post it. So basically, you have to call one API using the code itself, which will make your test case failed into the Jira, and it will reflect it. It's very important because release wise, if somebody will ask, okay, release number 23, what was the test result? So actually, you will go to the release and you will say that in the Jira, you will be able to see. That's why this part is important.